Alright everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, video number 168, Materialized Apparitions. What are they? It's an interesting work. Link in the description to my edition on Amazon, second and third to my books blogs. This does have to do with like the Victorian era sort of seances and spiritualism. There are other works of that kind available, both in the academic and in the mysticism sections. I believe the latter's the case. This is an interesting, it's about 80, I think 88 pages long if I remember correctly, so somewhat full length. Yeah, the original version is over 200 pages. You got to understand the format in the Victorian era tended to be double spaced, and so when you compress it down to a more modern format, it loses about half of its page length, sometimes actually more, because you're stripping out, they had huge margins and weird stuff like that. This is an interesting work for one primary reason. It is primarily a tale of parlor magic and fraud. It studies a seance-holding medium called Anna Fay, actually, at the time, who was already well known by the late 1800s, and so it was an ongoing study, apparently for about a decade here. What do we know about this individual in retrospect? They were outed as a fraud. Just like Blavatsky and some of these others. This is what brought down the spiritualist movement. It wasn't that the theory was wrong. It wasn't that the spirituality lost its fervor. It wasn't that it was no longer in vogue to believe in spirits and stuff. It was the mediums, honestly. Most of which were outright parlor magic frauds, including Miss Fay. Talented. She never got exposed for the first decade or so. None other than Harry Houdini was instrumental in finally exposing her, getting the sort of the final confession, which was not long before I believe she died. There were others that had brought question to some of her practices. She sort of semi-retires, and then Houdini finally gets basically a written confession. Harry Houdini himself. That's an interesting facet of it. Now the theory, the spiritualism movement still exists, number one, and number two, I mean, it's definitely part of pop culture. The idea of the lady with the long flowing hair and the crystal ball calling forth spirits, big earrings and incense stuff, that sort of post-Blavatsky sort of iconography is still very much in vogue, and it is still practiced to a degree. We see the seance holding sort of mediums, John Edwards and some of these people, still, at least in the recent past, fairly popular. It's a little bit like megachurch pastors, I suppose, a little renaissance of them too for a while because of on-demand TV. But it's still interesting. As a cautionary tale, number one, the occultists can't believe everything they see, including in a literary format, and this is also important. Just because you read it in a book doesn't mean it's true either. It's more likely to be true than if you saw it on TV, or at this point maybe on the internet, CNN.com, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Here you have an author who is absolutely convinced of many aspects of the seances and the spirits, saying, well, there's a physical materialization, I can't accept phosphorescent light, and this cabinet's too little for a bunch of people to be in it at once, and I check it, there's no one in it, and then all of a sudden there's 20 people floating around the room. It's weird stuff. And it was all a floor show. It was just a very, very well done floor show. And really that is a little bit of what magic is about. Some of it is illusion. It is fraudulent. You have to then try to discern. The occultist should find this of great import. Read through this book without Googling the actual subject of the study, and then Google her. See all of the things that are claimed here, and then see what they actually were. Ah, well, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, a disappearing stool. Oh, yeah, the spirit cabinet has, like, a secret entrance. Yes, but at the time it was taken totally seriously, and he beats up on the skeptics for that. Although he does label himself one. He does proclaim that some of the practices, he's like, well, I don't know, I wouldn't believe it, but I can't explain it, so I'm just going to keep an open mind and stuff, to his benefit and credit, by the way. But it's an interesting work from the period. And again, the Houdini connection, the fact that what you're reading about is a spiritualist description of parlor magic, quite interesting. Definitely recommended for anyone who's practicing the occult. Beware of fraudulent occultism. You have to be. That's about all. Peace out.